Hi guys, Jonathan here. So over my last about 5 or 6 years between working in youth soccer and now with Primal, I've seen two very common errors with youth soccer athletes in the running. So the first most common error that we'll see with soccer players is this slightly slouched, hunched over, or seated position. This comes from us as coaches teaching youth athletes to be in a good, what we call athletic stance in the team sport field, which is knees slightly bent, a little bit of a hinge, heel slightly off the ground. In most scenarios, this allows athletes to be able to react quickly, change direction quickly, and get going quickly. But the younger the athlete or the less formal training an athlete has, they'll run in this position, which limits the amount of hip flexion they can get in, and therefore limits the amount of power they can hit the ground with if they're not getting their hips in front of them. To correct that, often you'll hear coaches tell athletes to run tall. Now, this presents another issue. What happens here is athletes end up overstriding because instead of getting their hips in front of them with a little bit of a lean, they'll think I have to be as tall as I can. And now when they run, one of two things happens. They're gonna hit the ground flat-footed in front of them, and I can't move forward from here. They're gonna end up just breaking, coming back to where they came from. Or you must move forward, they end up reaching a lot of force through the hamstring, and it's a really big pull. That overstride increases the amount of force felt in the joints. So athletes who overstride actually tend to complain ankle, knee, low back, hip pain, and or stiffness from their run. So 3 things that we can do to address these 2 common running errors in youth athletes. The first one is teaching athletes how to shift their weight from nice, neutral, upright stance to the ball of their foot and get comfortable there. Have them rock onto the heels, onto the ball of the foot, onto the heels. What this is gonna do is teach athletes, rather than standing upright and tall, which might lead to them, again, overstriding, is to that move forward, I want the lean, and now when I move, I strike under my hip and I'm actually pushing that ground away from me. The second piece of the puzzle is to now introduce proper striking technique to the ground. One drill that we can use for this is called an A march or an A skip. So the A is the first part of what you would do for accelerating and running. My knee comes up. What I want to do is focus. Nice 90 degrees, nice and upright, strike the ground under my hip. I can do the stationary to learn where to hit, introduce that lean forward now, to now move and translate to how I would be moving. Evolving the A march to an A skip allows an athlete to develop rhythm, and now I'm nice, rhythmic, landing under the hip with a little bit of a lean to move forward. And to put this all together, we can translate it into a wall drill with that A to teach athletes on this first step to get their hip extension and get moving forward. What I can do here, step about arm's length away from the wall, if not a little bit more, hands out, shoulders height, fall into the wall. From here, I want to hinge backwards, nice and relaxed. The goal is to try to push this wall over and triple extend. Triple extension is on the toe, straight knee, hips out in front. One more time, nice, lean back, extend.